What would you think if I told you that something as common as simple kitchen eggs could make your peach tree load up with fruit like you've never seen before? I'm not talking about expensive fertilizers or hard-to-get chemicals. I'm talking about simple eggs that you probably already have in your home right now. Today, I'm going to show you exactly, step by step, what you need to do to make your peach tree produce much more. I suggest you stay until the end because I'm going to reveal a small additional ingredient that almost no one mentions and that must be combined with the eggs to unleash this massive peach production. Now let's get started. A few years ago, I met a man who kept a small orchard behind his house. It was one of those simple gardens that often go unnoticed by people, but which actually hide highly interesting stories. It wasn't anything very spectacular at first glance, just some fruit trees, a couple of orange trees, an apple tree, and an old peach tree that seemed to be living its final days. The leaves were dull, it had some dry branches, and most people would have sworn that the tree was beyond saving. It looked like one of those trees that remain standing out of pure habit, as if time had completely forgotten about it. But something very curious happened. 2 weeks after visiting him for the first time, I passed by his orchard again, and the tree looked completely different. The leaves had much more color, new shoots were appearing everywhere, and the tree radiated an energy that wasn't there before. It was as if someone had reignited the spark of life inside that peach tree. The first thing that crossed my mind was that he had used some very strong fertilizer or a special laboratory product. But when I asked him what he had done, he laughed and told me something I still remember clearly. He said, "I didn't do anything complicated. I just gave back to the soil what the tree was asking for." And that phrase made me reflect a lot, because we often believe that a tree dies from a lack of water or simply because we have bad luck. But the reality is much simpler than we imagine. Most fruit trees that weaken are not sick, but malnourished. The soil loses its minerals over the years. The rains slowly wash them away, and constant watering ends up diluting them. The tree is still alive, but growing in increasingly poor soil, and little by little, it loses its strength. The secret to everything lies in this detail. Before continuing, I want to ask you something out of genuine curiosity. Where is your peach tree located? Is it planted directly in the soil of your garden? Is it perhaps growing in a pot on a patio? Or do you not have one yet but are dreaming of having one soon? Let me know in the comments. I would love to know where those trees are growing. There are people who cultivate in very small patios, others on large plots of land, and also those who start with a simple pot on a balcony. And the interesting thing is that everyone, regardless of the available space, can apply these little tricks to significantly improve the health of their plants. Now, continuing with the topic of the peach tree, there are also many cases where trees grow strongly, put out new leaves every year, and even bloom a little in spring. But then most of those flowers fall off or never actually become real fruit. It is a fairly common situation, and many people get frustrated seeing this repeat season after season. Many think it's due to a lack of water. Others believe the tree needs more generic fertilizer. Some even think they just had bad luck that season. But often the problem is simpler than it seems. The tree does not have a sufficient amount of a key nutrient to form and sustain the fruit. That highly important nutrient is calcium. Calcium is fundamental for the structure of plants. It helps strengthen tissues, form much more resistant cells, and, something very important in fruit trees, it helps the fruit set and stay firm on the tree instead of falling off when they are still small. When a peach tree has enough available calcium, the plant's tissues become firmer, the flowers are much more likely to turn into fruit, and the tree can better support the weight of its own production. Conversely, when a peach tree has little available calcium, it may grow well and have beautiful leaves, but it struggles greatly to sustain the fruit. And often that detail goes completely unnoticed by the person caring for the tree. And this is where something curious comes in, something almost everyone has in their homes: eggs. But before revealing exactly how to use them, I want to tell you something that will surely make you smile. When people hear about eggs in plants, many might imagine someone breaking an egg directly into the dirt and that's it. In fact, you might be thinking right now that I'm going to tell you to break 2 or 3 eggs and put them at the base of the tree, but that's not the case. The secret is not inside the egg, but in the shell. Eggshells are largely composed of calcium carbonate, a natural source of calcium that can help fruit trees immensely. But here comes the important detail. If you simply throw the whole shell on the ground, the absorption process is very slow. It can take a long time to decompose and release that calcium. Sometimes months even pass before the soil can truly take advantage of that mineral. That is why there is a much more effective way to use it, a way that speeds up the process and allows the tree to benefit from that nutrient much faster. And that is what I am going to teach you next. If you like learning these little gardening secrets that completely change a tree's production, hit the like button so that more people can discover these practical and natural solutions for their plants. Now let's get to the important part. What we are going to prepare is a small homemade fertilizer rich in calcium using eggshells. For the mixture, you will need the shells of approximately 5 eggs. That amount is perfect for preparing a dose that works well on a medium-sized peach tree. When you use eggs in the kitchen, always remember to save the shells. Once you have the shells, wash them lightly to remove any residue and let them dry for at least 2 days. It is important that they are clean to avoid bad odors or remnants that could attract unwanted insects. Once dry, crush them as finely as possible. You can do this with a blender, a mortar, or even by crushing them inside a bag with the help of a rolling pin or a bottle. The finer they are, the better. When the shells turn into a very fine powder, their contact surface increases, and the soil can take advantage of the calcium they contain much faster. That shell powder is a natural source of calcium for the soil. But here comes the detail I mentioned a moment ago, that extra ingredient that changes everything. We are not going to use the shells alone, but we are going to combine them with a very common ingredient that is probably also in your kitchen: vinegar. Yes, white or apple cider vinegar. When vinegar comes into contact with the eggshell, a small natural chemical reaction occurs that helps release the calcium from the shell, transforming it into a substance that is much easier for plants to absorb. It's as if you were waking up that calcium that was trapped in the shell structure. That reaction slowly transforms the calcium carbonate into a more available form for the soil. And that is why this mixture works much better than simply throwing the shells into the garden. The preparation is very simple. Place the eggshell powder in a container and add approximately 1 cup of vinegar. When you do this, you will notice that the mixture reacts and bubbles. That is completely normal. It is the effect of the calcium being released. Let it sit for 1 or 2 days. During that time, the process continues slowly, and the mixture becomes increasingly rich in available calcium. Afterward, transfer the solution to a larger container. Add 1 liter of water and mix well. And now you have a homemade liquid concentrate rich in calcium ready to use. But pay attention, because you must dilute this solution correctly to apply it to the tree. If your peach tree is planted in the ground, you can dilute that concentrate in about 5 liters of water before applying it around the tree. And if it is in a pot, use only half the dilution, meaning about 3 liters approximately. This fertilizer is simple, cheap, and uses something that would normally end up in the trash. Furthermore, it is a very smart way to recycle kitchen waste and transform it into something useful for your plants. Sometimes the best results in gardening come precisely from these small gestures, repeated with patience. If you are here learning and wanting to care for your tree with love, do something else with those hands. Subscribe for free to this channel so you help me continue sharing real gardening knowledge explained simply. However, the process does not end here. What comes next is just as important as the mixture itself. I am referring to how to apply it. First, lightly water the soil with clean water. Moist soil absorbs nutrients much better. Then, pour the solution around the perimeter of the tree, forming a circle around the area where the canopy ends. Avoid applying it right up against the trunk, since the roots that actually absorb the nutrients are usually further out, right under the area where the branches end. That area is where the tree has the highest absorption activity. This way, the tree will be able to take much better advantage of that calcium. Now comes something interesting. During the first few days, you probably won't notice anything spectacular, and that is completely normal. But after a few weeks, small changes begin to appear. The new leaves usually look firmer, the tree starts to grow with more vigor. When blooming time arrives, more flowers than usual often appear. Those flowers are the beginning of future peaches. If the tree has the right nutrients at that time, the chances of those flowers turning into fruit increase considerably. Here comes another detail that can improve the result even more. I promised you at the beginning that, in addition to the main ingredient, there was a small enhancer. After applying the eggshell and vinegar calcium mixture, you can add a thin layer of organic matter around the tree. It can be homemade compost, worm castings, or even crushed dry leaf remains. This improves soil life. Living soil helps nutrients stay available longer and helps roots work better. It's like creating a small ecosystem that favors the tree. Now I want to ask you something. What do you like to grow at home the most? Fruit trees like peach trees, tomatoes, aromatic herbs, or perhaps you are starting your little garden right now? Let me know in the comments because it's always interesting to know what is growing in every corner. And before finishing, there is something very important you should know. Some common mistakes can ruin this process without you realizing it. First mistake, using too much undiluted vinegar. Vinegar is useful in small amounts, but too much can alter the soil's balance. Second mistake, applying the mixture too often. Once or twice during the season is usually enough. Third mistake, applying it when the tree is completely dormant in winter. Ideally, you should do it when the tree starts to wake up and prepare to grow. The fourth mistake is pouring the mixture right against the trunk. Remember that the roots that actually absorb nutrients are further from the center. And the fifth mistake, forgetting something fundamental for any fruit tree, light. A peach tree needs many hours of direct sun to produce quality fruit. You can give it good nutrients and care for the soil, but if the tree lives in constant shade, production will always be limited. When you combine good light, healthy soil, and balanced nutrients, the result can be surprising. A peach tree full of flowers, then full of small fruits, and finally branches loaded with ripe peaches ready to harvest. All thanks to small changes and better understanding what your tree needs. If this video helped you look at your peach tree in a different way, subscribe to the channel for free. Here we want to form a community of people who enjoy seeing their plants grow, learning something new and sharing what they discover. The idea of this channel is to share simple, real, and easy to apply tricks so that anyone can improve their garden. It doesn't matter if you have a large plot of land, a small patio, or just a few pots. Often, the biggest changes in a garden come from small details that almost no one explains. Here we are discovering those details step by step. And before we say goodbye, I leave you with one last question. Had you ever thought that something as simple as an eggshell could help your tree produce more fruit? Let me know in the comments, because often the best garden secrets are hidden in the simplest things in our own home. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. If this guide on how to transform your kitchen waste into an abundant harvest has changed your perspective on gardening, we invite you to subscribe and like the channel. We are unearthing the natural secrets that time and industry have tried to hide. Cultivate your knowledge and sow a greener future. The next treasure for your orchard will be revealed very soon.